All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakah HaKodash. Double honor to the elders, apostles, and the bishops at Great Millstone who rule well. Peace, love, and salutations to the hopeful elect out there doing this work. Much love to the scattered elect and to the few sincere women out there that subscribe to the true doctrine. This is the brother you call Lamar for the Great Millstone Camp, the branch out here in Omaha, Nebraska. Coming back with another lesson, Lord willing, to feed and to edify the lost sheep of the nation of Israel through the Holy Spirit, Rakah HaKodash, with the Israelites consisting of the so-called Negroes, the so-called Hispanics, and the so-called Native Americans by the seed of your father, no matter what you may look like. And just want to get into this article, man, from the yahootech.com or tech.yahoo.com, which says China beats Elon Musk to launch world's first brain chip. Less invasive designs help Chinese brain chip clear regulatory hurdles first. And I did a little bit of research, as to how long this technological race between the United States and China has been going on, and it's been going on for about 11 years, right? As I pull it up in AI overview, and I'm reading it off of my computer. It says that what I typed in, what started the technological race between China and America. The technological race between China and America was primarily ignited by China's quote-unquote Made in China 2025 plan, launched in 2015, and the subsequent realization by the U.S. that China was rapidly losing the gap in foundational technologies like artificial intelligence, semiconductors, and 5G networks, which all these three things America has been constantly increasing on since this race has begun with China. And I had to look up what, the proper term for what a semiconductor was, and essentially it boils down to being a microchip, right? Because when you look into the AI overview, it says a semiconductor is a material typically, that word kind of tore me up, typically silicon, with electrical conductivity between that of a conductor and an insulator by acting as a tiny switchable electrical pathways. Semiconductors form the fundamental building blocks of semiconductors form the fundamental building blocks of modern microchips, integrated circuits that power all computers, smartphones, AI systems, and digital devices. So it's just a chip. Now this form can come in the form of a microchip. All right. Now what we seen with now since Elon Musk is been mentioned in this article, one thing that he's very popularly known for is the Neuralink. And I'm sure you brothers out there, you sincere sisters, are very familiar with the Neuralink, and what its so-called purposes were, why it was created. Now essentially with this Neuralink, it was conducted to help those who are like paraplegic, who aren't able to move any of their limbs, to be able to still do regular things, but just utilizing the chip that's been put inside their head, and like for an example, control a mouse cursor with your thoughts, or to play. You had an individual who was playing solitary or just his thoughts. So this is something that America has been constantly working on accelerating. Because the chip's already here. You know what I'm saying? The brain chip's already here. It's just that here in America, it hasn't been pushed on a mandatory scale. There are people already getting it. All right? But I want to get this precept here in the book of Daniel. And we bring, there's only a couple of really precepts that I really want to bring out, because I mainly want to just read the article, because this is what started with the elder apostle Tahar. We've been speaking on this for years now, man. As the apostles and the elders say ad nauseum, to the point where it makes you sick to your stomach. But we have to bring these things out, because why? That's blowing that trumpet. Now this is Daniel chapter 12 verse 4. It says, "But thou, Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book even to the time of the end. And we're at the time of the end right now. Okay, we're seeing a lot of prophecy coming to pass. We're seeing the wars and rumors of wars with China. I mean, with China and America, there's talks of nuclear threats. Iran with America also is another one. And there's just a recent statement made by Donald J. Trump, who said that they're going to hit Iran in a very hard way. Okay, and they're talking about physically. They're talking about going to war, like a full-fledged war, man. Okay, this is a rumor of war, and this shows you we're at the time of the end. All right, you got famines that are being manufactured. You got the famine of the word also. I seen something earlier that I want to look into a little bit more. Which is the C9 bill. Okay, which the C9 bill, which was passed recently in Canada, which pretty much goes against hate speech and religious meetings in public. Okay, which I said I have to get into it some more, but just even reading that much shows that famine of the word is coming. Okay, and you got brothers up there in Canada. All right, you got brothers up there in Montreal. So hey, this. How can this not be the last days? This ain't no 1,000 years left. Okay. But reading on, it says, "Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased." And knowledge is being increased. Okay. This we're in a digital age. All right, as it's been coined, this industrial revolution. This is the fourth one. Okay, and this is the digital one. All right, every time you turn around, you see something that talks of AI. All right, you see talks of things being digital. You see talks of robots. You see talks of all these different things that have everything to do with things being technological. So we are living in the last days. All right. Hey, Babylon better count its days, man. All right. Hey, I'm gonna get one more precept, and I'll get into the article. Because this is what the apostles on down. Before they even hit YouTube, before the apostles even hit YouTube, they were teaching this word. Going back into the early '80s, man. Been teaching this word. It's still going hard. Right. So now let's get this real quick, and then I'll get into the article. Where we at? This is the book of 2 Peter, chapter 3, and I'm going to get straight to it. Verse 12 says, "Looking for and hasting unto the coming of the day of the Most High, when the heavens being on fire shall be dissolved, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat." Right, which is ultimately that thermonuclear destruction. This is going to come after this M.O.T.B, the Revelation 13 and 16 is established. Right, 2nd Ezra, the 4th chapter and the 37th verse says, "The Most High doth not move nor stir until the said measure be fulfilled." Okay, and that said measure is being fulfilled right now in its order. All right, so let's get into it. And this shouldn't be a long lesson, but Lord willing, it is edifying. Okay, so lock you for the rant, but let's get into it. Now this is back in techyahoo.com. It says China beats Elon Musk to launch world's first brain chip. It says less invasive designs help Chinese brain chip clear regulatory hurdles first. In a high-stakes global race that many assume tech billionaire Elon Musk will easily win, Beijing has quietly claimed the throne. And those Moabites, those some wise motherfuckers, man. Those some smart-ass people. There's a running joke that if you had to replace all the whites with one race, who would it be? They would say the Chinese, because of their high IQs. Okay, there's a running joke with that right now. All right, but nonetheless, these are very studious and wise people, in their lot. All right, so they pretty much they get down and dirty when it comes to researching things and understanding how things work. Okay, this is why they're able to create things that create these different, like for an example, We were just talking to the brothers the other day about it, or mentioning to the brothers the other day about it, how they have their AI data centers in the water. They calculate it. And this is just speculation, but possibly true. I'm speaking as a man, but they have these AI data centers in the water because it's a natural cooling system. To where it's not going to affect its citizens, like America, with how they're using their data centers. You got people that have to minimize taking showers or take shorter showers. They're not getting a good influx of water. Water's coming through looking like sweet tea. It's just it's not smart. America's just trying to, like a little kid that's trying to compete with the big brother in a sense. That's the reference that I want to make. Not a very great one, but they're chasing China. They're chasing China's tail when it comes to this technology, man. Okay. Excuse me. So getting into the article, it says China's National Medical Products Administration has officially greenlit NEO, the world's first invasive brain-computer interface approved for commercial sale. The milestone marks a major turning point. While Musk's high-profile startup Neuralink continues to navigate regulatory testing, China's state-backed health system is already gearing up for mass production, right? Which is what we speak on with this M.O.T.B. There was an article that came out. Let me see if I can find it. It came out some years ago where they had America, that is, had dumped a bunch of money into to computer chips, right? Listen, I want to look it up, and all these things that I'm speaking of, if they're not on the screen, I'm gonna post the links in the post production, and I'll leave the timestamp and all that. So that way what's what on computer chips, right? So I just typed in amount of money America spent on computer chips. Right? So it says, wow. So it says the United States have catalyzed over $640 billion in private and public semiconductor supply chain investments. This effort is anchored by the $280 billion chips in Science Act of 2022, which includes $52.7 billion in direct federal subsidies and loans to rebuild domestic chip manufacturing, right? So America's spending all this money, all these billions, okay? All these billions on these not brain chips, but these computer chips and semiconductor supply chains, and you still got homelessness. You still got people that can't even make ends meet, working 40 plus hours a week, 40 to 60. Some people even working 70 hours a week, depending on where you work. And they still barely able to get by. But here it is, you got all this money to be chasing China, chasing their tail, to try to be the number one artificial intelligence hub of the world. Okay? Does America really care about you? Just a joke, but here it is. They spend all this money on these damn chips, and you still got all these active problems going on right now in America, man. All right. So it says, let's get back to it, man. It's back in the article. It says why China's NEO reached the market first. For years, Neuralink has dominated headlines by promising a future where humans can control digital devices with a single thought, which they have done. It says, however, despite beginning human trials, Musk's signature N1 prototype has yet to clear the regulatory hurdles required for public sales. Right? What are those regulatory hurdles? Let's see what that is. What are the regulatory hurdles for AI? AI sales, I should say. So it says, so the regulatory hurdles for AI sales involve navigating complex compliance frameworks regarding data privacy, transparency, and consumer protection. The primary challenges require balancing pipeline acceleration with legal risk, specifically avoiding deceptive practices, ensuring human oversight, and adhering to regional privacy laws. All right, going on to some of the subtitles: data privacy and consent. AI tools require vast amounts of data. Sales teams must comply with regulations like GDPR in Europe and CCPA in the US. Securing explicit consent for customer outreach, email sequencing, and data scraping. Buyers must be explicitly informed when they are interacting with an AI system or chatbot. Failing to disclose automated agents can trigger consumer protection violations. And the thing with America is, that America will put it out there. They will put it out there to let you know that this is what we plan to do, as far as AI being a surveillance. Okay, well, because you've all Noah Harari, who came out and said it himself, that the new surveillance, the new AI surveillance will be subdermal. Being the micro C-hip. So they have come out in certain aspects and spoke on that. But, nobody's approving robots coming over here and taking over people's jobs. You got all these people getting fired. You had almost hundreds of thousands over the last 3-4 years. A lot of those employees have been fired. And the most recent one is, you had 30,000 Amazon warehouses that were pretty much, their jobs were taken, or not taken. Their jobs were terminated. You know what I'm saying? And you had 11,000 technicians come in so they can uphold this AI infrastructure, but nobody's approving of these things. Esau's just doing shit. So I take it that the individuals over there in China, the citizens, they're more compliant to this AI infrastructure that's being set up over there. So therefore, things are going to move faster. So yeah. So those are some of the hurdles, and I'm gonna post that also. I'll make sure I'll leave everything that I'm speaking on. Let's get back to the article just a little bit more, and then we'll close it out. So getting back into the article, let's see where I left off. Okay, it says, however, it says the company beginning human trials in 2024 and is currently testing its N1 implant in 9 patients while awaiting broader regulatory approval. According to the neurotechnology experts, the secret to China's regulatory victory lies in a clever, safer engineering trade-off. All right, and it gives both of the Neuralinks N1 requires a robotic surgeon to thread microscopic electrodes directly into the cerebral cortex, literally piercing the outer layer of the brain to read signal neurons. China's NEO, developed by Shanghai-based startup Miracle Technology and researchers in Tsinghua University, the coin-sized NEO device uses a much less invasive approach. Its 8 sensors sit entirely outside the brain tissue, resting comfortably on the dural matter, the brain's tough protective outer membrane. It says Avinash Singh, a brain chip researcher at the University of Technology, Sydney, told the MIT Technology Review that this less invasive approach is almost certainly the reason Neo reached the finish line first. By avoiding deep brain penetration, the device vastly reduces the risk of severe immune rejection, bleeding, long-term scarring, and tissue damage. So they figured that shit out. Okay, how can we do this and not fuck people up too bad? But this is why the most it says this is that said measure. Okay, this is that said measure because when America sees this, and they analyze how China's been able to get around to this state of being pushing this first, this brain chip first. You don't think that they're going to do the same type of make the same type of adjustment so they can push their chip? That's ultimately what it boils down to. All roads lead to the chip. All road leads to the M.O.T.B, man. Okay? It says, now I'll read this last part here and then I'll close it. Okay, we're at the end of times, man. The Lord's about to visit the world which he made, It says the challenges of brain implants. It says, although progress has accelerated, significant challenges remain. The human body naturally reacts to foreign objects, which can create scar tissue around implants or, in some cases, lead to rejection. There are also surgical risks associated with any brain procedure. Any kind of brain implant can cause physical damage that may affect how neighboring brain regions work, explained Griffith University cybersecurity expert Dr. David Tuffley via the New York Post. For example, if there's bleeding in the part of the brain that controls speech or movement, even a small clot could impair those functions, said Dr. Tuffley. And while infections in the brain are rare, they can cause swelling and further complications if not immediately treated. These concerns continue to shape how regulators evaluate emerging brain-computer technologies, which, this is the Most High's prophecy, man. All these prophecies are the Most High's prophecy. So he's going to put the spirit on these Edomites to figure it out. And through these Moabites is going to be the way, because they the Most High put the spirit on them to be able to figure it out. But this M.O.T.B, as it's spoken of in Revelation 13 and 16, on down, where it speaks about that all small and great, rich and poor, free and bond are all going to receive this M.O.T.B. So it has to be, it's going to be perfected before it's put out there in a mandatory fashion. Okay, so that's pretty much all I wanted to get into. And I pray that this was edifying, man. Like I said, I'll leave everything that I touched on in the description box, post production. But yeah, the time of the end is here, man. So with that being said, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakah HaKodash. Double honor to the elders, apostles, and the bishops of Great Millstone. Peace, love, and salutation to the hopeful elect Akim out there. Shalom.